welcome to the CommuniTEA, where young black, gay, and bisexual men have unfiltered, candid conversations on things like dating, sex, relationships, race, identity, and community empowerment. We're here on behalf of United Black Element. UBE exists to enable young black, same-gender loving men ages 18 to 35 to fulfill their greatest potential for good. Now, tonight we have a really good episode for you. Since it's our first time, we're going to take things slowly and just keep it casual, talk casual dating and hookups and all of that good stuff. So down in the comments, we want to know, how do you like to meet your mans, okay? We want to know, do you like to do it on the social apps, Jack, Scruff, Grindr, all of that? Or you like to go out and meet your man at the bar, the clubs, the grocery store, wherever that may be. So let us know, like, love this video, share this video, and yes.
And if you like what you see, tap me in my DM.
Hello? Now, remember that if you're in the Dallas-Fort Worth area and you are in need of free HIV syphilis testing or would like to inquire about PrEP, you can call us on our PrEP hotline at 214-393-3700, okay? 214-393-3700. So let's go down the line. I want everyone to just say your name and let us know how you like to meet your mans. Let's start over here on this end and work our way around.
Okay, my name is Jamil, and I would say I prefer to meet people outward, like out and about, in the clubs, at different events, more so, that are for, or supportive of same gender loving men, to make it easier for myself. But I mean, I've used other forms, such as, the other aforementioned platforms, so.
Hi everyone, my name is Samuel Jones, and as far as how I meet guys, I prefer for things to be organic, I do. But as far as the main person that I'm talking to now, I met him off and out.
Oh!
I did.
Cue Doja Cat.
I know, right? Oh, I gotta go. I prefer to meet them out and about over the apps. Now, I'm not against the apps. I would just prefer to meet someone out. Like I said, I like to see how you move, how you act, how you react in the room, how you maneuver, things like that, and just see who you're around for the most part.
Hey everybody, my name is Chris. Where I meet guys at is a little indifferent. I'm sort of like a chameleon. I'm good in my skin no matter the place, no matter the circumstance, no matter the opportunity. But it's all depending on the type of situation that I'm looking to engage in. If it's gonna be a sneaky link, a meetup, get that head, get that bread, then leave, or is it gonna be something a little bit more? I'm very diverse on how I can engage with people, because what I want to know, I always find out.
Okay, so come on with the bookstores. Yeah.
That's where I saw you, right?
Girl, you never saw me there, honey.
That's not what they had said.
No, but the footage, I know the owner very well, and the footage came back and it was you.
They call you Queen Bliss.
No, honey, they call me the Grand Dame. So if you're all plays, that's you. I let you, your ministry. Continue.
Hi everyone, my name is Jamal, and I like to meet my guys in person, just because I think that's more organic to me. I do meet them online, but preferably out in the grocery store in the meat department.
When I say here side, you say farm, this side farm.
Go
I'm Lava. I prefer to meet my guys. I like social media. Social media is a good way for me to gauge, a person based on, because I kind of get to see their thought process and everything. So
okay,
I like that.
Catfish, yes.
Okay. So what issues come up for y'all, like once you figured out how you gonna meet your man, like, cause ain't none of y'all got one.
I don't
So
need
this is
one,
the
and I
most-
never
I
did.
ain't got one either. So listen.
Well, say that
The
about
hostess
first.
with the
So, for clarification, I have many. It's just making the final decision with the right one is the issue.
Well, they have to go
What?
see.
Not lip sync, but they like.
They have to lip
Oh,
sync
y'all
for
like
the
those?
sneak.
Okay, so-
That's interesting.
So what is it? What is it? What's the issue?
I like being single. Being single was so much fun. I love being single. I mean, of course, I would like someone to, eventually change that. But right now, I'm having a good time, so no rush. Next question, I'm saying.
Well, I mean, for me, like, let's say that I met someone on the app, right?
Mhm.
The issue that comes up is really the process. Like, have you ever watched Dexter's Laboratory? And it's like the bookcase, the door, the one that spins, like, it's all like, the process that I go through generally is, okay, we're talking on the app, this is a good conversation, let's see if we can move that to texting. Oh, we texted just as well as we did on the app, let's see if we can talk on the phone. Okay, so we're talking on the phone, this is working very well, let's meet in person. And then, after making it through all of those gateways,
You're pregnant.
that is,
Yeah.
that's why I'm wearing this, I don't want
Community turn Maury or Jerry Springer.
But you have to make it through, or at least speaking for myself, there are all of these stages that I go through just to see if I can meet the person at the end. And then if I meet the person at the end, it can either go very well or, it can be a waste of time. I get more data, but like that very ending part, like when we make it to meeting each other, that's when things can either go well or not.
I don't know, cause for me, I think my biggest issue, of course, is like probably consistency and just like you said, some people don't make it through all of them stages, and so, or we get to one and then it's like all of a sudden we have to go 3 steps back to the other stages or whatever.
Yikes.
So for me, it's just like a lack of consistency, a lack of actually wanting anything serious. Cause I mean, I can get sex if I wanted it. Like that's easy. You can get on the apps, get hook up, whatever. But I'm kind of at the place where I'm over that, and so I would like something serious, but
Well,
I just
how
don't
do
get.
How do you enable consistency in those things? Like even if you do it from app, or like say for instance you met someone online, like how do you particularly put in the effort of saying I'm the least consistent yet I'm not getting
Well,
consistent kind of.
Well, for me, I mean, if I feel like I'm the one that's always reaching out, or if I feel like I'm the one that's always initiating conversation or initiating like a date or hanging out or anything in general, if I start to feel like it's only me, then I feel like that's not consistent because you're not showing your interest. I'm showing mine, but I don't feel like it's being reciprocated.
That's a big.
And so, like I said, like I'm not gonna, at a certain point, I'm gonna realize like, okay, and then I'm gonna stop. And if I stop and then I don't hear from you for a week and a half, then that shows me that you thought maybe I wasn't worth your time, or you weren't as interested as you said you were, or I thought you were. For me, because I understand people getting busy, but I feel like there's still a level to the communication. You can communicate to me that I got this going on, this is going on, or whatever. Like to me, that's easy. Like I'm not gonna trip that you have to work or you have to do something or you busy or you just want you time. Like I don't mind you saying like, look, I just want to be with me right now. I'm cool with that, but you can communicate that.
I totally get what you're saying because I feel that we make time for the things that we want to make time for. I think dating now has changed greatly from when I was in high school, which was back in the early 2000s, that we didn't have the apps that we have now. I think the only app we had like AOL, Yahoo Chat, and Hot or Not. Yeah, we had all those things.
The dial-up.
But in the dial-up, yeah. So compared to when our parents were younger, they only had a house phone that they couldn't be out on at a certain point after
Because
a certain
the
time.
internet, yeah.
Yeah. So we have more avenues to meet people, and if they see something that they think is better, like the grass is green on the other side, then they're going to go to it. Which sometimes that shit is fake.
Right.
Yeah,
Grass is only
Here we go.
when you water it.
Right. But I think for me, to answer the question on why I'm single is some of the guys think that I am a little bit too much with the things that I have in my life currently. And that's only because the people I've dated, they have told me that. They're not ready to level up. We're in two different stages in our life.
Oh.
And that's a hard pill to swallow, but at the end of the day, I'm glad y'all are letting me know sooner rather than later.
But I mean, I get that only because I know we've all kind of had our own conversations outside of this and everything, and even with you saying like you seem to be a lot more open to the type of man that you would be willing to date, and for you to have a person say, oh, like you're a little too much, or it's like you have too much, or you're this far advanced that I am. Like I agree with you. I get a lot of that as well too. Not even just like from a monetary or from a career wise or anything like that. It's more so from like even just the self-awareness of who you are and what you bring to the table. And so like as far as like I just said, so like I feel like some people are too sure of themselves sometimes, and like I've gotten that, like, oh, you're just intimidating, you're this, you're that, kind of thing, and it's just like, well,
You know what
good
this
luck.
gives me though? It sounds like if you were to just boil it all the way down, like what it gives me is that they're trying to reject you before you can reject them, because they feel like it's just gonna come at any moment, even though you are giving them the opportunity to grow. You're giving them space to become more. Well, if they don't want to, or if they don't feel like they can, they're afraid you're gonna judge them or leave them behind. They're afraid what people are gonna say about how you're so much better than them, right? They want to be able to say, well, at least I ended it. At least it's over on my terms.
It is an ego thing, I believe.
But is that like based off of like an in-person thing, or is that based off of what you've done, like by meeting someone online? Let's say, for instance, you did meet somebody through, let's say, for instance, Jack. We all know her. We know that girl.
I don't know her.
You sit with her. You sit with her.
Ain't this you? Like,
Right, 43 feet away.
0.00.
Right. Oh,
Okay.
okay. Sneaky link. That's the word of the day, guys. Sneaky link.
Like people, like the intentionality. Like I said, like at this point where I'm at, I'm like I really am looking to date, and so people, like if I say that to people, that's what they try to give, or that's what they try to say that I for. Well, really, they just want sex, and if you just want sex, say that, because I'm okay with that too. Like I'm gonna take it along the way. Like if you don't want to date or be in a relationship right now, that's completely fine. But like I said, don't lead me in the wrong, or just anyone in general in the wrong direction because they say that that's what they're looking for. So like you just be what they're looking for to get what you want, and I don't know.
So it's the misrepresentation for you.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. But even in that, like, let's say for instance, for me, like I would say over the like last year and a half, I've used my dating life as like an experiment per se. Like I've been on pretty much the majority like of the like different dating apps and sites and stuff like that. And it's just like, especially being here in Dallas, one thing I feel like with Dallas is that it's like a petri dish. No, well, kind of. But I feel like it's large enough, but then it's small enough as well too. And it's like, this is a place I have seen more 6 degrees of separation or less degrees of separation than I have any other place for the most part. And it feels like some people, from what I could gather, may be open to want to date and whatever, but maybe they're not in the place because they've been heartbroken, or they feel like financially that they're not there, or like, sometimes even like status comes up, like whether you're positive, negative, or indifferent or whatever. How far along you are on your journey of loving and accepting who you are, being a same gender loving African American male. But I just feel like sometimes like say for instance, if I saw you online, I'm like, okay, you're fine, but like I'm in a mood for a sneaky link. and there's nothing else around me that is like other options that look good, but like I see that you're a good person and everything, and I feel comfortable enough to want to do that, would you look at that person differently and still have them open to the possibilities of being a lover or a friend or whatever else if they did want to just lead with sex? Because that's what I'm not finding.
Me personally, no. Like, I would be okay with it if you're honest about where you're at. Like, if you're saying, like, look, I'm not right there, but this is what I'm looking for, like, let me make that option. Like, then I'll be like, okay, like, we can do this now, we can still hang out.
But there's no trans, like, it's
But
not
I
like
will-
people ask for transparency, but they don't take it in a sense.
I was gonna say, well, a little opposite. Just in my case, so like, I a lot of times I'm not authentic and realistic with myself.
Okay.
And so, also often, that like throughout this conversation, we've always talked about, okay, what the other person is not doing or isn't doing, but we seldomly don't think about, well, what am I doing? Or like, am I being realistic with my wants? Or
Right.
am I being real with myself? Or like, is a relationship the thing that I want? Because we, like I said, we all have these side conversations, and y'all know how I am. Like, you gotta look a certain way, you have to make a certain amount of money, you have to dress a certain way, you have to talk a certain way. You can't have not slept with certain people, you can't have to have a certain friend group, you know, in order for me to give you the opportunity for us to take it to the next level. Full disclosure, y'all, I have never been in a relationship. I've talked to people, dated, but I have never said that, hey, this is my boyfriend, all right? This is like my
He's a love virgin.
Right, and cause love, I heard
'Cause he's not
love
a
makes you
virgin.
crazy. And so like, I think that, and like cause now I'm 25, I'm getting older, and so I always told myself that, I told myself that I never had time for a relationship because I was always so focused on school.
Mm-hmm.
I always so focused on my career, and so now I'm at the point where I have those, and I'm happy with those. I'm looking for these other external experiences, but I'm having to figure out that I need to change my mindset. And I'm having to figure out that my views aren't necessarily the best thing. Because for so long I thought, it ain't nobody out here. All these niggas fuck boys, these niggas ain't shit. This is what I want, this is what I don't like. But I was failing to look internally and say, well, Chris, what am I doing wrong? Is this like, are the things that you want unrealistic? You know what I'm saying? Like, are you being true to yourself and are you being authentic? So I think that oftentimes we need to like sit and be like, of course we have these things that we want, of course we experience situations, but what do we really want and what are we doing to achieve, and in some cases maintain, or in some cases get back to where we want to be.
I got two things to say.
Go ahead.
Well, I wanted to come back to you before we went too far, right? You know, speaking of experiments, I have a hypothesis for you.
Ooh.
Because you were mentioning how, you know, guys would misrepresent themselves, right? They say that they want to date, but they really don't. What if they were social climbing? Like, what if they didn't want to say they're just having sex with you because that's behind the scenes? No one cares. So if they say that they're dating you, they get to be seen out and about with you. They get to be in your company.
Y'all heard that?
I mean, I don't know what their intentions are, but I don't think it's like that. I mean, who am I?
Okay, because all of us.
Well,
here
I mean,
okay.
Yeah.
you ain't like people don't know you, like you ain't been on the front page.
Okay. What was the other thing?
The same-
Oh, Maxine Gert.
I
Oh,
appreciate
man.
your pivoting conversation, Chris, because, you know, we come up with so many rules and regulations for the people out there who are interacting with us and who we choose, but very rarely do we turn that around on ourselves because it can be so scary what we'll discover.
Mhm.
We're able to do that.
And so like literally, that's really what I had to do. Like, and I'm like, and so like I'm realizing stuff about myself that I thought that I liked, that I realized that I don't like, and like that I not like the best thing. Because I said, if I was to continue to live life and carry on with the mindset that I had prior, I would grow old being alone, right?
Yeah.
And so everybody has that fear of growing old being alone. And so like I'm at this place to where I'm finding the balance between knowing my worth and knowing what I'm worthy of, but also being realistic with myself and being aware of what I give and what I can bring to the table and add to a situation.
Sometimes being realistic about yourself means that you're better than what you actually think you are.
And I think too, you were talking about the table. I always tell people, you know, I already have the table, just add on to the table. You know, I feel like we all have something that we can bring. I've been in 5 relationships, 34 years old, 5 relationships. I know the first relationship I ever was in, he made way more than I did, and I just was so intimidated by that. But the thing about it is we made each other better. And with me seeing what he had, it made me work harder to get to that level, and I can honestly say today I'm there. But, you know, that's the thing about relationships. You gotta be able to grow from those relationships that you have. And even when I left each relationship, I reevaluated myself. And I looked at myself in that mirror and said, these are the things that I need to do. I know this is who I am, but it made me reevaluate some of the things that I did and some of the things that I said. Because some of them, we didn't, you know, we loved each other, but we also hated each other. And that was the hard part for me, was how can I hate someone that I loved for so long? I love you for a reason. So I really, to my exes out there, I don't talk bad about you because there's something about you that I love. So we had a good time, but you know, exes are exes for a reason. But thank you for the growth.
Okay.
Lala, what you had to say?
I was gonna say it was with the whole, you know, self-reflection and self-realization parts. That was some things that I had to do when I was like really looking at myself trying to date. And I had to ask myself, literally look in the mirror and ask myself, not necessarily what do I want out of a person, but why do I want to be in the relationship? And then by the time I narrowed everything down, I was like, well, I want sex. I'm like, well, there's an app for that, you know. Well, I want friendship. I want friendship. I have plenty of friends, and some of the friendships that I'm cultivating now, you know, they're starting to blossom. So I'm like, okay, that can't be the reason. And then by the time when I went down my checklist of why I wanted to be in a relationship, everything was coming back to I'm just bored. And so I think a lot of times people, but that's a real thing. A lot of times people start craving, you know, people because they're bored. And it's like, don't jump into something because you're not stimulated. Like, find ways, because then you're going to be pursuing it for the wrong reason. At least in my opinion.
Well, how do you represent yourself? I know you said something about sex. How do you represent yourself in sex? Even when you're saying that you have, there's an app for this or there's an app for that. One thing I've noticed is in some way, shape, or form with the apps that we do have at our hands or our disposal, that they all can be used for the same, honestly, same thing.
That is very true.
In any way, shape, or form, because honestly, you can get a sneaky link off of Facebook, and you can find a church partner on Jazz.
My last relationship was from Facebook.
I'm not
so how do you represent yourself in those platforms, though? If you are looking for sex, let's say for instance, let's change the whole thing about relationships. I feel like we all kind of feel similar about relationships and presenting ourselves in this relationship, but it kind of goes back to what you were saying. Like, what if I do want to just have sex? How, like, what is, you know, like, how does that look for you guys?
I'm horny. Let me turn on my phone. What's up? Yeah, damn.
So you just set it up on an app.
Really?
I mean,
And I also have my team, so.
Okay, so for me, sex is something that is readily available and easily accessible.
Right.
But it's something that is not often pursued unless there's some form of connection. Because I'm one of those people who, when we have sex, it's gonna be what? Experience. Okay? So it's gonna be an experience. So I'm just not gonna give that experience to any and everybody for any odd reason when I just wanna bust or when I wanna get busted. You know what I'm saying?
Ooh.
But and I had that too. Right. So that was gonna be my next point. But like that for me, that has to be something that draws me to an individual, even if I'm just having sex with them, right? Like it has to be that. It has to be. Sometimes it's not even always physical. You know, that's a great part of it. Well, you know what? That's a lie. It does have to be physical if it's having sex. But also there needs to be something like I want to be able to look into your eyes and like feel and be aware of the moment. They want to be experienced. Because you know, like we have people, we know people, and some of us in this room, some of us like just get on the app, let's meet, beat, ski, and that's it. I can't talk to you again. Don't want to talk to you again. But I'm not that type of person. Like it's hard for me to detach myself from folk, especially like when I share my body with them sexually, no matter what position I decide to take on, because of it being such a monumental moment.
Yeah.
It makes it hard for folks like me.
Okay,
Those have been actually some of my, and we were talking about like relationships and stuff like that. But honestly, some of my best like encounters or entanglements or relationships, whatever you want to call it, have been when it was supposed to be something, but ended up being something else. Like if somebody came over, we were just supposed to like cuddle or just like kiss or something like that, and then we end up like
developing something more. And honestly,
those be the best. Cause it's like nothing is
y'all are
planned.
built
So
around
y'all-
sex
because you have no
Pause.
expectations.
Y'all
But see, but
probably
a lot of our relationships are built out of sex, even within this community, you know, in some way, shape, or form.
Mhm.
So, like, if we got rejected by somebody, oh, well, you're not cute, but we could be friends, but you probably wanted to bust me down, that's probably why you talked to me or whatever. Or, like, even, like, so just even some of our relationships. So, like, what, like, are you, I would say that how do you feel about that? Because I know you mentioned about earlier in regards to, as far as like somebody leading with sex, like, and then if you're leading with sex and you having some of the better, you know, relationships out of having a sexual.
Well, that's the thing. Like with me, like I don't set expectations. Like I have my standards and I know what I want, but I don't set expectations for other people. And so, like I said, if you tell me that's what you want, then I'm like, okay, cool. Because, like, I'm going to just flow with whatever. Like, I'm not saying that that's what I want. Like, if I want that too, we can do that. But if I don't, then I'm going to let you know, like, that's just not where I'm at. So, it just depends on, like I said, where I'm at. Like I said, if you're willing to be open about that, it's just not leading someone in the wrong direction. If you want sex, say you want sex, and then I'll be like, either okay or no.
I think love has so many, and I talk about not having expectations a lot, and sometimes I get a bad rep for it to be like, you just don't have you don't have standards, and that's not what that means.
Expectations and standards are two different things.
Exactly, and so
Wait.
when it comes to love has so many. Speaking from like a scientific sense, there's so many uncontrollable variables in that. And so when you go into something with that many uncontrollable variables with expectations, you're setting yourself up in a way, in my opinion, for like emotional failure. Like it's because anything could happen. I've seen people who've been married for 20 some odd years and all of a sudden my husband just left me, no sign of nothing. I'm like, if you do have to expect anything, expect the unexpected. And so I like to go into something kind of like a little bit more liberally to see like what grows. Here we go.
No. So I have learned time and time again to keep my expectations low. I have gotten my feelings hurt so many times expecting things from people who just didn't have the capacity, right, to give me what I needed, even though I thought, or even though they might have said they did, but just based off of action, right, they didn't have it. But to couple up, and for the people out there, he's not saying that you don't need to have standards, because I feel like there's like a gradient, a word that Sam likes to use. And so at the base of that gradient are your standards. So acknowledging and knowing your worth, that's the base, right? And so expectations of what you expect or what you foresee or what you want level up from that baseline of having your standards. And you move up forward, right? So it's like you have your standards here. This is what I know. This is what I can deal with. This is what I can't deal with. Expectations. I'm at the height of my expectations, right? So instead of being up here, understanding that you need to float somewhere in between the middle of your highest expectations and the top of your standard.
Thank you so much for explaining that, because I was highly resistant to the idea of not having expectations, because to me, when I hear that, it aggravates me, because it sounds like semantics.
That's what we're
I'm like, of course you have expectations. You're just using different words for the same thing. But, you know, listening to that explanation, I get it.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. The difference in expectations and standards, because standards are what I want for myself, my self-worth, and what I know I will and will not accept. Like what Chris was saying, expectations is what you basically accept out of something or someone else.
Expectations is what you're
It's
telling
like
somebody else to
Because
But you
of
can't
how
tell
you
other
would
people.
want them to act.
Based off
So,
our standards, this is what you expect.
Right, but you
based off
can't
of
expect
those
everyone else.
I went on a
Right.
date.
You
I
know-
went on a date with you, so you better text me after this. That's
you
an
know what?
expectation.
And you know what? This goes back to this concept that I love when we talk about like health and physical health and mental health. It's just like being aware of self, right?
Mhm.
So your standards is a awareness of self and where you are and what you need, right, in order to go to that next level, or what you need presently. And then the expectations, like what Lava says, is what you're expecting someone to do based off of who you are, or what you want them to do based off of who you are, what you want them to do based off of who you think they are, or what you believe they are, right? So when we place these high expectations, a lot of times we get hurt because we tend to confuse our standards with the expectations of what we want out of people, because we're so focused on those expectations and meeting and finding those in other people that we forget about who we are and what we need to make us feel whole and complete. So like we talked about, like this area in between your standard and your expectations. Sometimes if you have a lack of awareness of self, this area can be very gray.
You know what? You know what it gives me? It almost looks like it's almost like expectations or wants, whereas standards or needs.
Right.
Just about to say it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Sam's point is the point I was going to make with this. We have those wants, and to your point, one thing in the relationships I've been in that I've heard is you act like you don't need me because of the things I already have. So the guys that I've dated said, since I'm not needed, I don't need to be here. I never, and I hate to say this because I know they're probably gonna watch, but hey,
Hey.
it is what it is. But yeah, the difference between the wants and the needs, and I can honestly say there's times where I can say that there's times where I'm like, I don't need you because I can pay my bills by my damn self. So
But
I
if
feel
you
like
have that thought already, and they feel that could almost be almost like a manifestation of that too.
Yeah. And I mean, the people that's watching, I hope you don't feel that if you really are liking me, because that's not who I am. I did the self-evaluation, and that's not
Because
who I
men
am.
is going to want to provide. At the end of the day, men want to provide for whatever they do.
Not all.
And not all, but
If you got a good man.
Not
Right.
most.
Okay, but I do want to shift.
I'm
gears.
a-
I want to shift gears. So something that you brought up earlier and you said too was status and stuff. So I do want to know, like, in dating or hooking up or whatever, like, at what point do you bring that up? What point do you start discussing sexual health and what that looks like and all of that good stuff?
that depends on the situation. One, yeah, most definitely the situation, the timing of what it is. Like if it's like, us going, I would say like if I'm going out on like an actual like what we could classify as a date or whatever, I'm gonna go and that would be something that I've worked into us talking at that conversation versus like doing it online or whatever the case may be. Sometimes it's just like, okay, let us be in the same atmosphere, same space, same place, because at the same time you want to be at least open enough to have that person share what they need to share and share what you want to share and what you need to share in a sense. And like, let's say for instance, you're talking with this person and you're on a date, and let's say for instance, you are positive and the date was bad and you already told them that could be something people can go out and be like, oh, child, he's stupid and he got HIV, girl, no, I can't deal with him. Or, sometimes you never know what people are going to do with certain information. But even then, depending on how high your like transparency level is or your honesty level is, I mean, I would say it's the same thing I feel about HIV or anything else, same way I would feel about cancer, the same thing I would feel about anything. If you're sharing your mental health, your mental, I would want to know those things, but I wouldn't want to put you in a place to where you have to divulge, especially over online or something like that. To me, that's impersonal. than just kind of having that one-on-one time with each other.
I think it's the vibe for me. So for me, it's the vibe, how we're flowing, how the conversation's flowing, and things of that nature. Because to your point, I don't want to tell everyone my business, because I don't know what their intentions are until I get to know you. So I gotta build some kind of level of trust to trust you with the information I'm gonna give you about my life. It's not like I'm gonna tell you on the first date how much I make or where I work. I usually don't tell people that. Yeah, some people ask those things, but I'm very vague in what I
What's your
get.
credit score?
Right. But the thing is, if you're asking those type of questions, are you trying to be here for the long run, or are you going to be here for a short time? So at the beginning, I don't like to give out all that information just because I want to feel what the vibe is and how we are connected and things of that nature. For me, personally. But I mean, it's eventually get there, maybe date 2 or 3. And then 2, if we're not having sex, then why do I gotta tell you something?
That's what exactly.
That's why I said it depends on the situation.
I bring up the conversation about sexual health if I know that there's a sexual attraction or sexual chemistry. If we go on a date or we're meeting each other and it's just like,
Right, there's no need because it ain't.
yeah, so then that's why I like to, and I like to do it as soon as I feel arousal, because then I can go ahead and get because some people perceive the conversation as uncomfortable. Me working in the field, it's not uncomfortable to me, but not everybody works in this work, so it can be perceived as uncomfortable. I like to go ahead and get that kind of discomfort out of the way so that we can really get to the fun stuff.
Right, and she can, like, if you have an uninhibited sex, honey, well, you got this, that, and that, or you ain't got this, and that, and if you do got this, and that, let's make it, to where we can still have uninhibited, amazing, fun, mutual sex.
But even just being cognitive language, even if you do have this, and that, you can still have uninhibited.
That's what I said.
But it was how you worded it that creates like when it comes to like disclosure, how we say things and how we word things can create stigma that prevents people from being true and authentic and sharing their experiences, whatever they're going through.
Well, we know what you mean.
So we know what you meant, but for folks who probably don't know you or know what you were getting at or just came into the conversation, what you said could have been triggering to somebody who's dealing with that situation. Like this, that, and how you put. So we have to be mindful, like things we say and how we say them. Whereas for me, like yeah.
But I do what you're saying.
I know. Yeah.
The more honest you are, the more barriers you can let down. So I think that's what you were hinting at.
Yeah, because I even said even if you do have this, and that, then the things that we can do to have the most uninhibited sex that we can have. So I mean, yeah.
In my mind, for me, it's about how intertwined our lives are becoming. Like, I know this isn't the perfect parallel, but I would imagine, like, if you're a single parent and you have a child and you're dating, like...
When do you tell them you got a child?
They're starting to get really, really close.
Exactly.
So, in my mind, when it seems like relevant parts of your life are about to cross over, that's when...
That's a good point.
Yeah, I agree with that because, too, we don't want to waste our time or their time, you know what I mean? Especially if they tell us something like that. A child is not a deal breaker for me. So anybody out there that got a child, you're okay.
You said you like
I
daddy.
with you.
You like
Just
daddy.
Especially if you're a
And
good
I'm not
dad
taking
too.
your name.
Yeah,
I know.
especially if you're a good daddy too.
Hello.
Okay,
So we talked about well, y'all talked mostly about it being like in a dating aspect, but say we are just hooking up, we on the app. Then when does it come up? Do you talk about it first? Do you talk about it at all? Talk about it.
I think
Talk about it.
that
Oops, my bad. No.
It depends on how far you're driving.
I think that the only person, the only person that you owe an explanation to or a reasoning for how you do and when you do is yourself.
Right.
As long as you are aware of your personal safety and as long as you are getting screened for sexually transmitted infections and HIV on a consistent basis, and as long as you are aware of your status, it's nobody's business of what you got going on in your body, what you're going through, especially if you're taking additional necessary precautions to make sure that you are preventing folk from acquiring whatever or receiving whatever you may have. And that could be accessing PrEP, that could be through using condoms, That could be just
Communication.
Communication. That could be through testing together. That could also happen through figuring out alternative methods in order to reach sexual gratification outside of insert of anal sex, right? So as long as you are aware of your options and as long as you are using the tools and the resources within your network, I think that you don't owe anybody an explanation because you're taking the initiative to make sure that you're safe. Because even somebody could tell you that they're negative and positive all day, but it's no way that you know if that's the truth or not unless you physically are the one testing them.
Or go on a date to the clinic.
Or do like the magic school bus
Yeah.
and shrink.
No, done with you.
Okay,
Oh.
but actually, even going on a date to the clinic can be a little taboo too because there's certain part of the clinical visit that, based off of HIPAA guidelines, that no one else can be in the room with you in the position. So it's nothing for you to tell
Unless you.
It's not depending on where you go and who you know.
No.
It's nothing for you to tell a physician to tell somebody else that, hey, this is not what it is. You know what I'm saying? That's nothing. So all you can do is be aware of self. All you can do is take care of self. And through taking care of self, you're taking care of any and everybody that you choose to engage with sexually, any and everybody that you choose to get to know. You taking care of you, and that's about it.
I think another way to take care, and I agree with everything that you have said, I think another way to take care of ourselves is if we do go to hook up with people, we need to let someone in our circle know. Where we are, because there's some people out there, especially on these apps, that are not having the best intention for us. Being who we are, they want to hurt us. We have seen and heard stories around the world.
Yeah.
So whenever I was doing that, I would tell like one of my good friends, like, hey, this is where I'm going. Because I want you to know, if I don't show up tomorrow, you know my last whereabouts. Hey, let me share my location with you. So I think to everything that Chris said, I 100% agree, but I think another key part of that in keeping ourselves safe if we're going out to do these random hookups.
A buddy system.
Yeah, definitely let your friends know.
And if you're on like the opposite end of that, if you're like one of those people who, I need to know this and this and that and that and that and that, you know, okay, do that, that's fine, but make sure like how you ask people is the correct way because you don't want to make people feel less than. And there's certain ways that you can bring up defensive, right? There's certain ways that you can bring up those conversations. You know what I'm saying? That make that other person feel a bit more comfortable. Mm-hmm. Or, you know, before you even have sex, you can take the initiative and you can learn. You can look up. You can take initiative and you can learn how to do an HIV instant test, and you can give one to yourself and give one to your partner before you engage with them instead of dismissing somebody and asking questions because you don't know. Because a lot of times people aren't aware of what's going on in their body and they like to cast judgment without taking care of home first. Mm-hmm. So if you're one of those people on that opposite end of the spectrum, I need to know and I need to know, well, how about this? You go buy 2 tests. And before you have sex, you test yourself and then you test the person that you want to engage with sexually.
Right. And they've gotten better too, that home test over time.
And I want to double back to something you mentioned earlier, and that's PrEP. So can you tell people what that is?
Oh, me?
Yes. You said.
Okay, so PrEP stands for pre-exposure prophylaxis. So PrEP is an amazing medication, and what it basically does is that it prevents you from acquiring an HIV infection. So I'm gonna give you an analogy, okay? So let's just say we're gonna present PrEP as a gate, right? And so HIV is a burglar, right? And so the traditional view of a gate is that a gate surrounds and protects your home from unwanted interests in unwanted people, right? Mm-hmm. And so the more you keep up with your gate, so the more you paint it, the more you fix on it, you know, you checking on your gate daily, your gate is going to be strong. So as these burglars come to try to come and rob you and take your stuff, they ain't going to be able to get in, right? Mm-hmm. So PrEP is a drug that you take once a day. And so you have to take it once a day for at least 30 days for it to build up enough concentration within your system so that if your body comes into contact with a burglar or HIV contagion, it literally will like bounce off of your cells and it won't mix with your cells, it won't duplicate in your system, and it won't spread to your other cells. Yes. So think of PrEP as a barrier, right? So give me your hand. So, right, so this is me. This is my PrEP. I'm taking PrEP daily. So the more that I take PrEP, I go from 1 finger to 2 fingers to 3 fingers to 4 fingers to 5 fingers. This is me taking PrEP every day, right? So if I have a burglar coming in, try to get in, he can't get in, right? Because I'm taking my prep. Versus if I'm inconsistent, maybe I took it Monday, I didn't take it Tuesday, then I took it Thursday, but I stopped taking it. I'm left open, right? So, prep keeps you safe and prep keeps you aware, right? And so most people don't realize that prep is easy to take. There are a lot of programs such as Gilead Advanced Access. There are a lot of local clinics here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area where you can go and get prescribed prep for free, right? And so, and I know there's been like a lot of talk about prep and like the negative effects that it has on his body, but that was the old school version of the drug, because you know, drugs go through consistent FDA approval. We're always enhancing medication. So now, as long as you do not have any substantial issues with your liver, you should be okay to take prep. And the new form of prep is synthesized by a different track in your liver, so it's not as hard on your liver as it was before in the past. And so also, even if there's also another option, so even if you've been exposed to an HIV contagion, there's this thing called PEP, which is post-exposure prophylaxis, which is a pill that you can take for 30 days, well 28 days, I say 30, just to be safe, just to be sure, but 28 days, as soon as you've been exposed. So you have, there's a 72 hour period that you have to take PEP so that you will not acquire, so you won't seroconvert to having a positive HIV infection. And so like I said, so PEP has been around for years, it's just that we haven't known about it. They've been using it within rape kits and for rape victims, for heterosexual cisgender women for years. We just weren't aware of it. But now we're aware, and you can have access and resources to it as well. They have it at Parkland. And even some of your local clinics may offer PEP, depending on the situation.
Yes. So as Chris said, there are a lot of places out there that offer PrEP, and a lot of them that offer it for free. So if you are interested, you have any questions, you would like to know, please call us. That number is 214-393-3700. So y'all, this is coming to a close for today.
Okay.
Like my leg. A great episode. Those are always open.
That's the only time.
Open. So I just want to remind everybody to protect yourselves, protect others. And that's it. This has been another episode. Well, the first episode. The first episode.
And
first
that
of
means
CommuniTEA.
And that was the tea.
Y'all have a good night.